Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I am going to talk about a mistake that we all commit and do not even realize that we are committing it. But it cost us our relationships, our loved ones, our mental peace, our physical health, our mental health and whatnot. Let me start this video by telling you a brief story. It's a fantastic story of a Zen monk who lives in a forest by a lake. There are other few monks with him who live in the monastery. So as part of daily routine, they sit in silence and meditate. But this young monk faces a lot of difficulty while meditating. So whenever he would close his eyes, either there would be a person who would pass by, or there would be some animals, stray dogs, or even birds that would disturb his peace. So he would be really upset at anything that would disturb his peace. So he would look for other places where he could find silence. So he would try different places, but again there would be something that would disturb his peace. So he comes across a boat that is tied by the end of the lake. So he gets a good idea that why not I row down to the middle of the lake and there would be nobody who would be there to disturb me, and then I would be able to sit in silence and meditate. So he unties the rope and rows down to the middle of the lake. So he sits there silently for some time. After some time, he heard some splashing in the water and some little rocking in his boat. So he angrily opened his eyes to see what is going on. He saw a boat coming straight towards his boat, and he yelled at the rider, "Stop, steer away or you will crash into my boat." He got very angry at the rider, and there was no answer coming from the other boat, and it was still coming straight towards his boat. It was just a few feet away, so he yelled very angrily again, "Steer away or you will crash into my boat." But the boat was still coming towards his, and it finally crashed into his boat. He saw that there was no rider in the boat. There was nobody. The boat might have come by the swift of the wind or something like that, but there was nobody who was riding the boat. So, this is what is happening with our lives as well. Whenever there is some disturbance or something unfortunate that happens in our lives, we find somebody to put the blame on, and this is what has become a very big problem in our lives. So today in this video, I am going to talk about blaming others or even yourself for that matter, how to stop it, and what are the major reasons that you should stop it right now. This is a long time conditioning. So in this video, I am going to talk about a few very effective ways and methods that we can stop blaming others and ourselves. Let me take you to my computer screen straight away and let us understand all about it. So in this video, we're going to talk about what is blaming. Why do people actually blame? So nothing happens on its own. We as human beings are very intelligent species, and everything is a part of the evolution. We've understood and learnt this process for some reason. Why do we do it? What is the need of stopping it? And then we will finally move on to how to stop it. Let's first begin with the what. What is a blame frame? Blame frame is a mental pattern where the focus is always on the problem. The focus is on the why of the problems rather than hows of solving it. So let us take an example of our daily household problems, such as maybe there is milk which is boiling over, and then you find that your wife or maybe your spouse, your husband, had put that on the stove and it boiled out. So you are trying to find somebody who you can put the blame on. Now it's a very simple problem, but the mental pattern is such that you are focusing on the problem, you are yelling or finding somebody to blame. Here you are not focusing on the solutions, you are only thinking about the problem. So when we are constantly into that situation or mind frame, we are constantly focusing on the problem rather than the ways of coming out of it. This is what we call as a blame frame. Now, why do we blame people actually? Blames act as a defense mechanism for humans. We as a species have learnt a lot of phenomena over this age of evolution. This is a defense mechanism. This is to protect us. So whenever we find ourselves in a situation where things get out of control, we try to find somebody who we can put the blame on, because it acts as our defense, because we want to save ourselves from the guilt, from the remorse and everything else. So it acts as a mechanism which saves us from all those emotions. Secondly, it may have rooted out from childhood. So here what might have happened is your parents or anybody who is elder to you might have held you accountable for the problems that were occurring. And it could also have come from the fear of punishment. In order to save ourselves from punishment, we acquire this behavior of blaming others. What I mean here by saying that severe punishment when took responsibility is that in case you actually held yourself responsible, in case you had committed a mistake and you got very severe punishment. So let's take an example of a job wherein you did something wrong and you told your boss that something has happened, something wrong has happened, but then you were fired from it. So what would happen is your mind would be conditioned to not hold yourself responsible for things. You would try to find somebody who you can put the blame on. Right. So also another, it could have resulted from a need to avoid certain emotions like guilt or regret, because what happens is, if you do something wrong, there's a lot of guilt or regret that comes into your mind, that originates. In order for yourself to be saved from it, this is a learned response to blame others. And then self-reflection is a phenomena where you sit with yourself, spend some time, start to know yourself and your habits and everything. So this takes a lot of time. This has several benefits, but this takes efforts. So in case you want to save yourself from it, blaming others is a very easy job to do. So this saves you from efforts of self-reflection. Why else could somebody blame others? Why else? This could be because of what we see. What we see today, these days, everywhere, all around us, is everyone is blaming somebody else. The ruling party is blaming the opposition is blaming the ruling party. TV shows, news, we are seeing a lot of shows where there is a lot of hype, people are shouting at each other, and this is getting a lot of audience. People are really liking it. So our conditioning is getting in such a manner that it is easy to blame and you get away with it. Also, why else can we blame others is because it feeds our need of control. Now we are moving on to the need of stopping it right away. The first one being, it causes helplessness and powerlessness. What do I mean by this statement here is, when you blame somebody, so for example, let's take an example of a statement that says, you hurt me all the time, you make me angry all the time. And in this statement, what you do is you are giving away your power to them, whatever or whoever you're referring to, you're giving your power away to them. And this is causing you helplessness. Over a period of time, what would happen is you will realize that you don't have any power over your emotions anymore, because you're letting it out to all others. You're letting it out to your family members, to your friends and anybody else who you blame all the time. So this is a very, very important point to note here, and this is a great point for why we should stop blaming others. In order to get back our powers and our control over our lives, we need to stop blaming others and take responsibility of our own actions, our own emotions and our mental states. So if you are feeling angry, it's not because of somebody else. If you are feeling miserable, even then, in that case, it is not because of somebody else. So don't give away your power and let somebody else control your life. Rather, take your power back and stop blaming others. It also, blaming leads to unforgiveness. And unforgiveness in turn leads to chronic anxiety, which leads to excess adrenaline and cortisol. This anxiety then in turn leads to depression. A lot of times it hurts your mental and physical health. So to save yourself from this pathetic mental and physical state, you should and you must stop blaming others, because you need to save yourself from this state where you are not being able to forgive anybody. Forgiveness is an art, and when you're blaming somebody, you take that art away from yourself. Then you are constantly in the zone where you find somebody at fault all the time. You are not able to forgive them for anything that they do. So this creates a lot of problem in your life. Then it leads to irrational decision making. Here, because your mind is so preoccupied with assumptions, with things that somebody else did to you, that you are not very sane, and then decision making becomes a real-time problem for you. It makes you feel out of control over your decisions, because then you have to punish somebody, then you have to be sulking, then you have to be unforgiving. It takes out control, it takes all your control, and then you take irrational decisions because you and your mind were clouded by assumptions and by the conditioning of blaming. Then there is a constant feeling of suppressed guilt. If you constantly blame others, inside you will still know that you were at fault. If you constantly keep doing this, your subconscious mind gets programmed for misery. Your subconscious mind only takes commands. So you constantly start to get what you give to it. And it hurts your relationships big time. Because what will happen is, if you are blaming your spouse, if you're blaming your family members, if you're blaming your children for anything, they would be in a constant fear. They would be always thinking that they do something wrong. Then your thoughts of you hurt me becomes their thought, I hurt him. You need to be mindful of what you're doing with your family members, with your loved ones. You don't want to blame them anymore, do you? This is only taking them away from you. This is intoxicating your relationships with them. Now, a lot of talk has been done about what and why is the need of stopping it. Let us move on to how to stop blaming, because it will also take some time for us to undo it. But there are, of course, very effective techniques that we can adopt. The first one being reframing. What does reframing here means is, for example, there is a statement that says, he always makes me angry. He always makes me angry too. If you reframe this statement to, how can I learn to manage my anger? From this first statement, he always makes me angry, where your mindset was of giving away power, giving away your control to somebody, to here, how can I learn to manage my anger, where you are taking back your control. You're taking back your life in your hands and you're deciding yourself what to do with it. So your whole mindset changes from being miserable to the one being productive, and then it comes from this blame frame to outcome frame, which is solution oriented. There would be scenarios where somebody would be poking you, where somebody would be irritating you, but it is in your control to be angry about it or not. So here you can ask yourself powerful questions or reframe your statements in order to get out from that mental state. Another example is from, I am impatient because I had a traumatic childhood. What does this statement say here is, I am impatient because I had a traumatic childhood. So here you cannot do anything about your traumatic childhood, You're telling somebody that you had a very bad past and you cannot do anything about it and you are impatient because of it. So here there is no power that lies in your hands. You're giving away all the power and you're blaming it to your childhood. It is past. Come on, you can do better. You need to get out of this miserable and pathetic state of mind, So we could reframe this to, what can I teach others with my own journey? You could state anything, any positive statement you could ask yourself, or reframe your statement into any positive statement. Here I have written, what can I teach others with my own journey? Because your own past you cannot change, but what can you do with it? How can you react now? How can you teach others with your own journey, right? We'll move on to the second point, which is ask powerful questions in situations you feel urged to blame others. There might be a lot of situations where you feel the urge to blame others. So let's take an example of a workplace where a team was doing something together and something happened misfortunately, something went wrong, and you want to blame somebody here because you were not at fault, right? So you want somebody to put the guilt on, to hold accountable for this problem. So ask yourself, is this really true? What could be a just opposite scenario of this situation? So if in case you're holding somebody responsible, let's take an example. If you're saying that this person intentionally ruined the project because he had shaken hands with the competitor, right? So ask yourself, is this really true? What could be a just opposite scenario of this same situation? Now ask yourself, can I believe it? Can I believe this opposite statement? If the answer is yes, then it's perfect. Then you are out of this blame game. And if the answer is no, then ask yourself, why not? What is the intention of you staying with that thought process? What is the intention of you? There could be a positive intention of blame as well. You want to save your company, you want to save your project, you want to save all the efforts that others have done. So check your intentions with it, but staying in the blame frame does not do good at all. You need to ask yourself, what needs to be done about it now? Is blaming that person really helping, or there can be something that we can do now? You need to get out of that problem oriented mindset to a solution oriented mindset, don't you? Also, you need to ask, how is this belief designing my reality? Now you need to ask that, how is this, you're believing that this person is with the competitor of yours. How is this belief designing your reality? How is it helping you stay in the office? Is it really helping you? Because you have to spend time with this person. You will still be talking to him, and this will only make you feel pathetic. But is there anything that you can do about it? If not, you should not stay in the blame frame. Rather, come back and take control of your life and life situations. Now, the third thing that you can do is accept your humanness and capacity to err. There is a very common and famous saying which says, to err is to human and to forgive is divine. So you are a human and you can of course commit mistakes. You don't need to punish yourself for everything and anything that you do. You need to practice self-compassion. If somebody, your younger sibling or your child, did the same mistake, would you really behave with them the way you do to yourself? Will you punish them just as much as you punish yourself all day long? If you are blaming yourself for something, and if you're if you start being more patient and forgiving to yourself, you will find that it's a very, very beautiful state. You will find that it's easier to be with yourself now. Also, if you need to do it, you need to practice it, because it comes with constant practicing. This is not a one-shot phenomena that will happen just on its own. Self-compassion is more like a skill that you need to learn. You need to affirm it and write it in your journal, maybe, that I will be more nice to myself, I will be more compassionate to myself, and this will then help you come out of the constant need of blaming yourself for something that you do wrong. Increase self-acceptance and self-worth. You need to get rid of the constant need of controlling and let yourself just be. Accept yourself the way that you are. Self-acceptance is the key. Then there is another very powerful thing that you can do here is you can use more I statements than you statements. You could say something like, I feel bad when you say that, instead of saying, you always make me feel bad. In case of your loved ones, what you can do is, instead of blaming them directly, you could say something like, you feel bad when they say that to you. This will also allow some room for them to ponder upon and reset their patterns or their behavior with you. You could use more could statements than should statements. So instead of saying that you should have done it, you could rather say, could we do it together? Could we do this together? Maybe I could help. Instead of, you should have done it according to me, see, you spoilt it. And also lastly, you need to take responsibility. Stop running from situations. Stop running from situations where you make mistakes in, and start accepting them. To err is to human. So it doesn't matter how you feel about it, but be done with it right away, because long-term guilt, long-term unforgiveness, long-term emotions like regret and guilt lead to anxiety and then depression. Your mental and physical health can be affected by it. So you need to start taking responsibility of your own actions, and you need to cultivate positive emotions and know yourself better. This was a bit about blaming that I wanted to share with you all, and I think we would now be able to not blame others. No more blaming others. Stop blaming me for taking so much of your time, and comment below some more topics that you would want me to make videos on. If you liked the video, please press the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Share it with your friends and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.